In this presentation we'll be looking at what you can do if you're tricked by a Hampshire trader. My name's Claire Bradley and this video is on behalf of Europe Directors. Now Hampshire's a great county. You've got the New Forest, you've got the big commercial centres like Portsmouth, Winchester, Southampton, Basingstoke. But despite all these advantages, there's too many cases of consumers being ripped off or tricked or misled or treated aggressively by a trader. And in this presentation we'll be looking at what you can do if you are actually tricked by a trader. Now under EU and UK law, it's illegal for a trader in Hampshire to claim that they're members of a trust code when in fact they're not. Misleading customers on limited offers, for example closing down sale, everything must go, run prize-winning scams, or claim that something is free and then ask a customer to pay money to get the free gift. It's also illegal for a trader or business to make false claims about winning, use decoys to trick a consumer or pretend to be a consumer, provide false market information, and make false claims that a product can cure you of illness or disease. Now in terms of background to these rules, the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive made these practices illegal, and it identified 31 commercial practices that were automatically unfair and therefore against the law, and these are known as the blacklist. It's also illegal for traders to mislead customers or to treat them aggressively, and the sanction for a trader or business which acts in this way is a £5,000 fine and up to 2 years imprisonment. So the law is very much on the side of the consumer. In the case of a company, the director, manager, company secretary or similar officer of the company is personally liable. So that means that they can personally end up going to prison if the company that they manage is actually treating customers unfairly. So the aim of this presentation is to explain to consumers in Hampshire where you can go for help if you've been tricked by a trader. All of the practices described in this presentation form part of the blacklists of behaviours which no business can ever justify doing. So the first illegal commercial practice we're going to be looking at is falsely claiming that you're a member of a trust code when you're not. Now usually people only check trust codes such as is somebody genuinely a member of check or trade when they already have suspicions that the trader is not altogether honest. And falsely claiming trust codes is when you say you're a member of a reputable body or a code of practice when in fact you're not. And if you do that, then that's actually a criminal offence. So it's a criminal offence for a trader to falsely claim they're members of a trust code. So if found guilty, they could be liable for a £5,000 fine and up to 2 years imprisonment. And that sanction applies to all of the illegal commercial practices we'll be mentioning in the video. The next illegal commercial practice we're going to be looking at is the false use of limited offers in Hampshire. Things like buy now, limited time only, or best price today only. Now if in fact the sale is only on for that day, then that's fine. But if you notice that the best price today only sign actually stays up for 2-3 days or even longer, then effectively what the business is trying to do is to rush you into buying the product, and that's actually a criminal offence. Very common one, very common to see across Hampshire, but illegal and subject to challenge. The next thing that we're going to be looking at is false prize winning. This can occur in two ways. Right? Business claims you've won or will win a prize, but in fact there isn't one. Or secondly, the business claims that you have won a prize, but you need to pay them some money to cover the administration costs of processing your successful claim. In that situation, what tends to happen is the business pockets the money, and amazingly enough, you never get your prize. Both of these are scams, and you can report this scam to Action Fraud on the web address listed above. Another illegal commercial practice is falsely creating the impression of a free offer. If something is free, then you don't, by definition, you don't pay anything for it. If you have to pay anything for it in order to get your free gift or whatever it is, then that's actually a criminal offence. Another illegal commercial practice is to make false claims that a product can influence games of chance. This is unlawful. So basically, if someone's trying to say, if you buy this software you win the lottery every time, that's actually an offence because you can't influence games of chance in that way. Another illegal practice is using decoys to trick a consumer. And this happens when the trader pretends that one product is produced by the same manufacturer of a well-known or respected product when in fact it isn't. So if we look here at a kind of mock-up example, it says new, the Blacksmith XD2, this new improved espresso maker uses Zenissio XD1 filters but costs half as much as previous Zenissio models. Now in this case, it implies that the Blacksmith XD2 is actually a replacement model for the Zenissio one, but in fact they're actually made by different producers, different manufacturers, and it's just a way of using a decoy to try and get the customer to think they're getting a good deal when in fact they're not. Another illegal commercial practice is providing materially inaccurate information on market conditions. So if a business in Hampshire passes on materially inaccurate information on market conditions so that the customer acquires the product under less favourable conditions than they should have got the product, then that's a criminal offence. Another offence is for a Hampshire trader or a trader in Hampshire to make false claims about curative capacity. So basically to imply that if you take their product, then it will cure you of disease or illness or malformation. The only time that you can make health claims, whether it's in terms of illnesses or diseases, is if you can scientifically back it up. If you are making health claims and you have no scientific evidence for this whatsoever, then that's a criminal offence. Another criminal offence is where a professional trader passes themselves off as a consumer, and the Advertising Standards Authority recently ruled against the company that makes Oreos. They were paying vloggers to promote Oreos to their YouTube subscribers without making it clear that this was part of a commercial arrangement. And the ASA said misleading people in this way was against the ASA Code of Practice and also breaking the law, and this is the law they were referring to. Now, where you can go for help if you've been tricked by a Hampshire trader, your first port of call should always be your local trading standards officer, as they are under a duty to act to enforce these regulations. Hampshire Trading Standards can be contacted at Montgomery House, Monarch Way, Winchester, SO 22 5PW. The phone number is 01962 833 620, or you can email tsadvice@hants.gov.uk. Consumers in Hampshire can get further advice by contacting the Citizens Advice Consumer Service, which provides free, confidential and impartial advice on consumer issues. And their web address is www.adviceguide.org.uk. If you want to contact them by phone, the number is 03 454 040506, or you're obviously welcome to contact us at European Law Monitor if you've got any further queries on these videos. Now, the rights you have under the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive are very powerful rights. This has been the biggest shake-up in consumer law for 40 years. And this law gives you the power to fight unfair, misleading or aggressive commercial practices by businesses in Hampshire. These practices cost consumers billions of pounds each year, and in most cases they don't need to put up with it because the law is very much on their side. So if you are a victim of any of these practices, then fight back because the law is there to back you up.